Welcome one, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going off-roading in Toyotas, wrenching on Toyotas, camping in Toyotas, and maybe even poking a little bit of fun at Toyotas, and of course, hearing about how great Corollas outwheel Jeeps and Chevys are, then this is the podcast for you. That's right, ladies and germs. My name is Tyler, and joining me in the studio today is Mr. Corolla himself, Mr. Jimmy Corolla Jet. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I've never had a Corolla.
Oh, that's too bad. Okay.
I've totaled a Camry.
You've totaled that works. That's close enough.
Okay. Like a 1990 Camry.
No, I'm bringing up the whole Corolla thing because I'm gonna do an audio snippet and put it in here, so you know what it is. I don't know if you listened to the Total Off-Road podcast, the last episode. Most recent one, no. Mike was talking about how a Corolla would probably outwheel everything out at Naxja or out wherever Steve was recently.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm gonna put that audio in here.
Well, that's badass. It's a Toyota, of course.
I know, right?
It'll outwheel a ship box.
That's a given. I don't know why that was such a surprise when they brought it up. No, you guys over on Total Off-Road Podcast, I hear you. I hear you talking shit about the Toyotas, even though one of you is definitely a closet Toyota, and we'll bring that out eventually here. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody out there knew how Mike really felt about Corollas. So,
I wonder if he's had one in his past life or something.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, probably his past life as a ballerina dancer at some point. Let the battle continue. Oh man. No, welcome to today's episode. We have a really, really fun episode lined up for today. Continuing on with National Welding Month, aka Tyler's Month here, on the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you've looked at the title of the show, then you'll know that we got Joe waiting on hold. So let's have him wait on hold a couple more minutes, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. Sorry, Joe. Have a drink.
It's a good thing we can mute him.
Right?
Yeah.
He's always screaming at the microphone right now. No, we have a really cool giveaway going on this month, thanks to Bun Trail Welder. So we have Bun Trail Welder for the giveaway for the month of April here. So make sure if you want to be included in that you go over to irate4x4.com and sign up for the giveaway tier. So that is located over on iRate. Once you make an account for iRate 4x4, then up at the top, there's a support/donate button on the menu, and you'll click that and then expand the next section for watch, listen, discuss. And you'll see the different Snail Trail 4x4 tiers there. You want to make sure you signed up for at least the giveaway tier. Also available for this month that will be shown on that same page for a selection is the gift box tier.
Yeah, the gift box tier is open this month only. Mm-hmm. This is the one of 2 months that you get to get into the gift box tier. And so we'll be closing that tier down at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. If you want to know what was in the most recent gift box that went out, go listen to the previous episode.
Yeah.
We talked all about it.
Yep. So we're getting ideas together already for October's gift box. And so make sure that if you want to be in for October's gift box, that you're canceling your Patreon gift box tier and moving over to the iRate 4x4 gift box tier, because we are going to be shutting down that gift box tier on Patreon, and you will not be paying into the gift box anymore. So
correct.
Make sure you get signed up over on irate4x4.com. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. We're trying to make things easier on us.
Yeah. Trying to make things a little easier and make things a little bit more fun for you guys as well. So there's some really cool interactions going on over at iRate 4x4. Some fun stories that are coming up, some fun discussions going on each of the podcast episodes. Because that was one really fun benefit, is that every single podcast episode automatically shows up like magic on iRate 4x4, thanks to some creative work that Austin did on the back end. So now you can go through and have discussions with other listeners about how much we messed up in the episode. So
perfect.
Yeah, I thought that would be a nice thing, so you don't have to call and yell at us anymore because you're hurting my feelings.
Yeah, we just delete those voicemails,
right? And we only play the Cuddle Fest voicemails.
Yeah, so. I still want to know more about that.
I do too. I haven't heard an explanation on it, so I'm really curious. I'm waiting for him to listen to that and write us or call back in with an explanation of
Definitely
what the Jimmy Cuddle Fest is. So, we also got in a really fun item that is going to be May's giveaway. I don't know if you noticed it over there in the corner.
I don't know how I would have missed it.
Right?
It's taller than you are.
It is taller than me. It was it showed up on my doorway at home, and I was like, I can't get into my door. So, I brought it over here to the recording studio, and it's going to sit over there in the corner until we mention it about May's giveaway. So
cool.
Yeah, that one's going to be really fun. So let's see here. I think that about does it for housekeeping for this episode.
Yeah. This is an interview. Let's keep it short.
Cool. Keep it short and sweet. We'll turn Joe's mic on. He's yelling at the screen there. I can see him. So we'll turn Joe's mic on here in just a couple minutes, and we'll be right on back. So everybody grab your favorite drinks. Really fun episode on the new podcast. We're relabeling the podcast, rebranding it.
Oh, this one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's going to be the Unimog podcast.
Yes, it probably will be.
So hopefully you guys enjoy Unimogs because they're freaking sweet. We kind of dove into the weeds a little bit, got a little off sidetracked talking about Unimogs here with Joe. But grab your favorite drinks. It's going to be a really fun discussion. Some really neat stories with Joe here. Joe Obremski. That's a tongue twister for some reason. Joe Obremski from Karnage Welders is who we got on the line today. So, man, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get it right on over. Welcome back, everybody, here to today's fantastic show. We have
round two,
because we're professional podcasters here at Steel Trail 4x4. No one will know about the first day around. So we have here live in the studio from far away from a beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. We have Joe Obremski from Karnage Welders. Joe, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, anytime, man. Yeah. Did you know that April was National Welding Month?
I did not till about a week ago when I heard you. I actually saw your other podcast on one of the other welders, so I was like, oh, wow, I got to check this out.
Oh, gotcha. With the buns?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, they're a cool little family. They're neat people. But yeah, I didn't even realize it was National Welding Month either. Jimmy was way ahead of me on it. I thought
I had it like 6 months ago because that's when we were designing the box, the gift box that we hand out. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be National Welding Month.
Yeah, I totally that went right over my head. The only part that stuck in my head was it was Tyler's month, and that's why we were doing welding.
That's all you ever care about is yourself.
Whoops. So anyways, sorry. Welcome to the show, Joe. It's a National Welding Month, so we wanted to sit down and get a bunch of different trail welders on the show and kind of learn the background, the stories, the benefits of different types of trail welders out there. And so who none other better to get on the show than Karnage Welder. Karnage is kind of relatively new to the scene for trail welders. So we're going to get into some nice details and specifics about Karnage Welder a little bit later in the show. But you are, of course, Karnage and the embodiment of Karnage Welder here. And so what is your elevator speech if you sit down and talk to somebody? You've only got 30 seconds to explain what Karnage is. What is that for everybody out there, just to give them a nice highlight before we dig into the details?
Sure. We build a fully self-contained briefcase welder that already has the batteries included. So just open the lid, flip the switch, start welding.
That's it. Nice. I like it.
We like to keep it simple.
I like it. Yeah. Cool. So we'll get into a little bit more details later about that. I have some questions, but Yeah, let's start off with, though, how did you get into this? Where did this idea of creating a fully self-contained welding system in a suitcase come from?
I think like most of them, we all started with, it's just, I was doing the wrong things with a vehicle that I shouldn't have been. So I ended up broken.
That's the right things, Joe. Come on.
Yeah, those are usually the fun things. So,
yeah.
We've all used duct tape, baling wire to fix things, but sometimes you just need to weld it. And in the past, we've used the clothes hangers, the metal coat hangers, stick welding with a bunch of batteries, and we were like, man, it just takes so much time usually to get you back on the road once you break. Because, you've got to, hey, can I have your battery? Hey, can I have your battery? And, usually the guy with the $250 Optima yellow top's like, yeah, I don't know if I want you welding with my brand new battery. So, you kind of lose friends that way.
That's funny. I usually make sure you carry lots of beer for that. So you can flag people down on the trail and with a sign that says, we'll trade beer for battery. And see what they say. So cool. So you're out there breaking a lot of stuff. What are you breaking stuff on? What kind of rig do you have?
So it started out breaking stuff probably in my 89 Toyota pickup I had about 15, 20 years ago. Extra cab truck, had a 4-inch lift on it, massive 33-inch tall tires.
Nice.
For the day, that was massive. Breaking drag links, leaf springs, just anything you can imagine we've broken. We've had to duct tape and baling wire and try to, stick weld back together. It's quite a bit.
Nice. So that's how you got started. Is that what you have now, the 89 pickup still?
So I was, out wheeling. I started joining an actual club called Total Carnage out of Las Vegas, and the name says it all. I mean, they take whatever they got, and we go out and break it. Yeah.
That's cool.
It's almost the effort for the day is like we're going to wheel until we break, then we'll fix it and go back to camp. So that's the day's plan.
Sounds like a fun group to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, these guys are great. I mean, I love. Like we were talking about the beer, if someone breaks, that's almost the best part of the day because everyone busts out coolers. Everybody has lawn chairs. I didn't know this in the beginning, but everybody brings lawn chairs so you can sit around the guy who's broken and just drink and make fun of the guy as you're telling him, hey, you're doing it wrong. Exactly.
Make sure he's doing it right.
Way. I would do it this way. That's good times. So the Toyota wasn't quite keeping up with that group, so I ended up looking around for something else. I needed lockers, I wanted bigger tires, and a Unimog came up in a search. So I was like, man, lockers, 40-inch tall tires, factory, well, that's for me. So I bought a Unimog back in 2004, and I've been just wheeling it, breaking it, rolling it ever since.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
A 404?
Yep, 404.
Sweet.
Started out as a 2-seater, stretched it to a 4-seater. No one wanted to ride with me because I was an idiot. Cut it back down to a 2-seater, and then eventually backflipped it. Cab crushed on me, so then I built it into a complete tube chassis. So I've been wheeling
tube chassis Unimog. That sounds awesome. Do you have an Instagram page for that Unimog, or?
I've got some photos and stuff on my Facebook page. I can send that to you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I want to check it out for sure. Yeah. I think Austin might want to check it out too.
Yeah. Put a little note down for that. I think that'll be a cool audiogram.
Yeah. Awesome. So you have a Unimog now. You started with a 89 pickup. How'd you get into off-roading? Like, was it just in the area of Las Vegas and you randomly found these guys that do off-roading, or how'd you get into it?
Yeah, my dad was Air Force, so we moved here in the 80s when he got stationed out of Nellis. And we had a little 74 Datsun pickup, and he would just like, hey, let's go boondoggling. So we'd all, like, 2 kids in the front and 3 or 4 of us in the back, and we would just go out in the desert and ride down a dirt road. And ever since then, I was like, man, this is fun. I like doing it. So I started wheeling probably during high school. I was out here in Vegas.
Was that a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive?
2-wheel drive, yeah. So after years, my first truck, he gave me that truck. And then after I broke it a few times, I bought a 78 Datsun pickup. And, I lifted it with massive 27-inch tall tires that did not even fit in the wheel wells. So there was a lot of cutting.
Is that a 620?
Yeah, yeah, a little.
Nice.
My first one was a 1.8 liter. The second one was a huge 2.0.
Nice.
Awesome. Those are cool cars. If anybody hasn't seen a Datsun 620, I've actually eyed them a few times. They have a really cool design that goes from the bed on the truck and leads into the cab, and it has this cool angled arc to it, and it's just a neat design feature of the truck, or cosmetic design.
Yeah, they've got some of the rounded corners, kind of like the older Toyotas had, where the front fenders were rounded, whatnot. So it was a beautiful truck. I kind of hate myself for destroying it.
Yeah, you'll have to find another one and build it back up.
Yeah, they're getting hard to find now. They're actually getting very almost collector's items.
Oh yeah. Yeah, a lot of the vehicles, as we learned in the past couple of years, you know, the 80s to 90s, that decade of Toyota pickups and first-gen 4Runners, they're just skyrocketing in price right now because the people that grew up in that era, that were kind of in high school in that era, just fall in love with those vehicles, and those are the people that have the expendable budgets right now. So
Correct,
they're getting those vehicles back for the sentimental value of them. But
so what you're saying I should do is buy all the crappy 90s vehicles now, and then maybe in 10 years those will be popular?
If you follow the trend of vehicle investments and how they end up hitting on price.
I'm gonna go get my 97 Ford Taurus that had those bubble windows.
Yeah,
it might be popular one day.
No, go grab one of the Buicks, mid 90s Buick.
That's 100% true. I've got 4 Unimogs now because I miss having the original stock Unimog. So I've got one on the side of the house. I'm putting a diesel in. I got another one in the backyard that was parts, but then it ran, and I'm like, well, I can't part it out now. I'm gonna have to fix it. And I've got another parts one on the other side of the house.
Four
Unimogs.
Where do you get these?
Yeah.
So you just check in eBay, stuff like that. You're looking for parts. You know, there's a couple parts vendors that have parts, but I'm always like looking for the extra. You know, I break portals a lot, so let's get some spares of those. So hey, I found a whole truck for $3,000. Well, that's 4 portals of spare parts. So, you know, I just keep picking them up.
Well, the next time you find one for $3,000, let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So honestly, on Facebook, I just saw one for $3,500 in, I think, Colorado. Just a chassis and the axles and everything, an engine. But you know, if you were going to build a cab and whatnot on top of it, could be an option.
Do we need to make a trip out to Colorado and drive Bobcat all the way back from Moab?
On our trip to Moab, let's just stop by Colorado, continue on to Colorado. Or maybe we can get in contact with some of the Rising Sun 4x4 Club, and they can bring it to us, and then I'll wheel that in Moab.
Oh, that'd be badass.
With no cab.
With no cab.
Just a steering wheel and a milk crate. I'm good.
Throw a Toyota body on it. It would look pretty cool.
All right. We'll just cab swap Bobcat real quick onto the Unimog.
I'll take Becky.
There you go.
I have an 88 second gen pickup cab.
Parts rig
truck
sitting on the side of the shop.
Behind the truck, I'll take that.
Oh man, that would be interesting. I was gonna say we could just build a little roll cage around the driver's seat really quick on the Unimog chassis. You can wheel that around.
I don't know what his name is, but there's a guy in Moab that like opens his whole entire shop and garage. It's his house, but he has a spare building.
Coyote.
Yeah,
that's Coyote Tours. Yeah, he's cool.
Interesting. Is that Grandpa's garage?
I don't know.
I think his name is Grimes, Danny Grimes, I believe. I was actually just talking with Jason from Wheeling Wine and Whiskey about him yesterday, about Grandpa's garage at least. So, we got his contact info. I was going to try and give him a call and see if we can interview him while we're down there.
Heck yeah.
But nice. So being in Las Vegas, Joe, do you get a lot of opportunity being into Unimogs, I should say, as well? I know that there's a big old GovPlanet auction property near Las Vegas. Do you frequent to that area too?
I do. I usually get on there and search for Unimogs or Freightliners and some of the 419 Unimogs, which have the bucket in the front and the backhoe in the back. You know, those
gotcha.
excavator type trucks. They show up every once in a while, and lots of other great stuff. And being they're right here, right out of Nellis Air Force Base, right in that area, it's pretty cool to go pick stuff up.
Yeah, I've kept my eye here and there on GovPlanet, and every once in a while I'll go perusing through it. And there's been a couple times they've had essentially little like APCs that are built out for tool carrying, and so they're essentially back halved APCs that have these massive toolboxes on them. I'm like, Oh, that'd be fun to get. And they're like only $4,000. I'm like, man, this is dangerous.
That's your ultimate trail recovery rig.
Exactly, the trail recovery rig for up here. That's fun, dude. So how'd you get into Unimogs? Was it just like a thing where you were like, oh, that looks cool, and I like the idea of portals, or was that you were just like 40-inch tires, lockers ready to go, let's do it? Did you look into Unimogs more before that?
It was more of an accident. I don't know if you know what a pin scour is.
Yep.
I was in another club called Vegas Valley Four Wheelers. They do more of the more milder trails. And one of the guys in the club had a 712 pin scour, which is a 6-wheel drive truck. And I was like, man, I'm looking for that on eBay. Find pin scour. I want one of those. So I was searching for it, and a Unimog came up in an eBay search, kind of just random. The guy had written not pin scour or not a pin scour, I believe is what he said.
Gotcha.
And guy had it in California, drove out there, $7,500, picked it up. It was in great shape. Didn't even know how to drive the thing. I was stuck in first and second gear till I got to the end of his block, and then found actually the road gears, and
Nice.
was able to do more than 15 miles an hour. And
I'll say,
we drove it all the way home.
You drove it all the way home?
Yeah, it was a 10-hour drive. The top speeds on those things is about 55, and if you can imagine going some of the hills coming from Vegas to California, we were doing about 25 miles an hour up the grades.
Gotcha.
How does the gearing work in those?
So it's got a 6-speed transmission. Your first 2 gears are your low range, but there's a gate to jump through to get from the low to the high. But other than that, it's almost like a 4-speed transmission if you don't use those 2 low ones. 4-wheel drive, you can pull up the handle once. You're in 4-wheel drive. You pull up a second time. Now the lockers are on as well.
Interesting.
It's a pretty simple setup once you get used to it.
Are those cable lockers?
It's actually a rod. It's a mechanical rod.
Yeah.
So, of course, the front locker hangs the lowest point on the entire vehicle. So if you high center on an obstacle, you shear that right off. So you're out there with a bungee cord trying to pull on that mechanical locker to get it to lock in the front. So I've had to do that quite a few times.
How are you high centering your diff with portals and 40s?
So it was more the frame, the center of the frame, your breakover point. So yeah, portals are a game changer. I'll be driving down the road, and there's a boulder that's literally 24 inches tall, and I will straddle it just so the guy behind me will have fun
misses
with
it and hits it. I would end up doing that all the time to people if I had the ability to just straddle rocks so they don't see them, and then they're just following you and get stuck on everything.
Yeah, like I said, our 4-wheel drive club, Total Carnage, we do a lot of follow the leader, and someone with a great rig will do some stupid obstacle, and we're like, oh man, now we all got to do that. Well, so then I get them back with the portal obstacles, making them hit boulders and stuff, because they're running big Dana 60s, Dana 70s, and those are just big rock grabbers. I mean, they're a lot of fun to mess with them.
That's funny. Oh man. So yeah, I wasn't aware going into this that this was going to turn into the Unimog podcast, but I'm loving it. That's cool. So you got 4 Unimogs now. Are you looking to increase the Unimog family there, or is it just kind of like whenever you see a good deal on one for spare parts come up, that's when you're like, oh yeah, let's go do that one?
Yeah, they've all been just spur of the moment, just happen to see a good deal, got to go grab it. One I got out of Texas, the guy was trying to sell it, $7,500. Nobody wanted it. It didn't run, no engine, but he had a ton of spare parts. Well, finally he listed it for $3,000 out of Texas, and I was like, let's go. So we loaded up the trailer and we headed to Texas.
Nice.
Yeah, they just show up sometimes.
Yeah. How does are you married?
Yes. So she's very forgiving when I see these things, and lately it's the last 2 have actually been. She told me about them. She's seen them online. She's like, "Hey, what about this one?" And I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
Don't tempt me.
She just wants the road trip. It sounds like.
Yeah.
That could be.
You're like, why are the 4 you're showing me on the East Coast?
Yeah.
Yeah, she wants to go see some seaside stops, I'm sure. We actually met through 4-wheeling, actually. So she's got an 06 H3 Hummer. So it's nice that our vehicles have such a spread in their capabilities. So it's like, oh, we're going to do scenic stuff and we need the air conditioning. We're taking the Hummer. There's no chance we're going to confuse that with we need the Unimog with no doors and windows and windshield, no AC or anything. So
Yeah. The Unimog gets a 45 mile an hour AC is what it does. So
yes, exactly.
Nice. That's really cool.
Those H3s are really cool, though. Also, didn't they had the option for front and rear lockers in them? Correct.
Yeah, I think some of the later model, like the Alpha model, which came with the V8 stuff, had options for lockers. My wife's is an 06, is one of the early models. It actually has an aluminum front differential housing, so they didn't offer a locker because that would just probably explode.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, we did throw an Eaton e-locker in the rear, and that's been a huge help. But also, the computer doesn't know it's there, so sometimes the ABS system will get confused because it's like, wait a minute, I'm holding the brake on the rear to spin the other tire, but the locker's on, so it's basically locking the truck, and it can't move. We've had to actually shut the truck off, turn it back on to reset the computer.
Oh, geez. There's no way to turn all that off in the H3s?
No, they're all. I don't like. That's why I like the Unimog. It's dumb. There's no computers. I'm the computer.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about simple mechanical systems.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah, definitely.
And I have a 3rd gen Tacoma, and there's a cheat code to turn off all the sense, like the ABS and sway and skid sensors and all that. So
up, down, A, B, start.
Pretty much. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that there's not an option like that for the H3.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably, like you said, some hack code in the background that you can look up somewhere, but we'll just keep hers on the more mild trails to where we don't need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you know Chris Paul? He has the built H3 that was on Ultimate Adventure, and he does a lot of wheeling. It's a really nice custom build out of an H3.
Huh? No, I haven't seen that one.
You'll have to look up his Instagram. I forget what his Instagram is, but I think if you search Chris Paul, you'll be able to find it. But it's a fully, caged out, custom axle, custom suspension built H3. So now that you're talking about the computer systems on him, I'm curious what he did to override it and make the truck work with everything that he's done with it. So,
right,
yeah.
Nice.
He probably has a Christmas tree on his dashboard.
Probably. He just covered up his dashboard with stickers so you can't see it anymore.
There you go.
Cool, man. So, wheeling out in Las Vegas, how is that? I've never been out into the wheeling scene down in Vegas, Southern Nevada there. How's the trails? What kind of trails, what kind of wheeling do you guys have out there?
So in Vegas itself, we're in a dust attainment zone, so there's really no wheeling in the valley. But we have Nellis Dunes, which has some trails and stuff. You get out into the mountains. We're surrounded by mountains, so there's tons of great trails as soon as you get right outside of the Vegas Valley. Logandale, Nevada, it's a great place. Vegas Valley Four Wheelers has the Hump and Bump event every year out there. Tons of trails on sandstone and stuff.
Nice.
Sand Hollow is actually only about 120 miles from here, out of just out of St. George. Yeah,
okay.
That's great wheeling out there.
Yeah, nice. So are you spending a lot of time out there at Sand Hollow, or are you mainly sticking to the mountains and hills right around Vegas?
We go a little bit of both. We'll go to Sand Hollow because we like the sandstone. It gives you kind of that Moab-y kind of traction, rock and stuff. And then we also have a little area near Alamo, Nevada. We go wheeling out in the desert out there, and some other little places here and there. So there's plenty to do.
Did you guys ever head up onto the eastern side of the Sierras? Or are you mainly going out east from Vegas?
A lot of the club likes to stick local. I don't mind driving, so like we'll go do the Rubicon once a year. What else do we do? Mammoth Lakes. There's some trails up in there, so we've had a couple Unimog events up there. We go wheeling there.
Unimog events. I guess, I haven't really thought about it too much. Are there enough Unimogs out there to have Unimog events?
Yeah, all 5 of them show up.
No, you'd be surprised. There's a big event in Oregon called Northwest Mogfest, and they'll have like 50, 60 vehicles show up.
Wow.
It's 1,200 miles from me, but we finally got to go last year, and it was a great event, and it was only half the size it typically is, and we had a great time up there.
How long was that drive for you at 55?
Well, so we trailer everything.
Cheater.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
if you were full throttle in a Unimog, you'd be deaf in a matter of hours driving that thing.
Approximately how much does it weigh?
Mine scaled down is 5,000 pounds, almost exactly. A factory truck is like 6,500. I've seen some with the big radio communication box in the back. They're up in the 7,500, 8,000 pound range.
5,000 is not bad at all. That's a nice weight for rock crawling and a kind of extreme rock trails weight. So
Yeah. I've tried to scale it down, but I've got 650 pounds of tubing. I weighed it all, and
Wow.
the rest of it is all the stock Unimog drivetrain. It's just all big cast iron, transmission, big, huge steel block. I mean, it's all heavy stuff.
Yeah. Did you do all the tubing and cage work yourself?
Yeah, so I backflipped it one April and kind of crushed the cab. I had a cage I'd welded to the cab, and it had all kind of crushed down about 2 inches and barely hit my head almost. And I was like, well, that's unsafe. So I had like 4.5 months to build a tube chassis for our Moab run that same year. So it was a marathon, but yeah, I built it all in my little garage at my old house.
Nice. Were you using a Karnage Welder to do a lot of it, or do you have some other fun ones that you like using there in the shop?
So back then we didn't have the Karnage Welder, but it was my little Lincoln 110 volt welder, which a friend of mine, my former partner who helped me design the Karnage Welder, he liked to make fun of me because he goes, "Oh, I'm not even going to use that 110 volt welder," because he's got a big 221. So that was always the joke whenever I was building something. He's like, "Are you going to use that little 110 welder?" And
Was it like a weld packed 140 or something?
It's a Lincoln. It's a little Lincoln 145 or whatever.
Okay.
So it's a good little welder.
Same one Jimmy has in his shop. It does great. Little flux core. So
yeah, I built the tube chassis with it. I built my a car trailer. I've built a friend's trailer. My new house, I've done all my fencing work with it. I mean, it's I've been beating it up for probably 15, 20 years now, and it's just keeps on spitting out welds. So
nice. That's cool. So the inspiration for the Karnage Welder, let's get into that a little bit. We talked a little bit, earlier that you were just breaking stuff and you're like, man, it takes a little bit too long to find batteries to put together and pull out of the rig and all this other stuff. So is that kind of where the inspiration for the Karnage Welder came from? Was just time efficiency of welding or what?
Time efficiency. I mean, if you do something so often, you're like, man, we need a better option for this. So my buddy Dave, he's the one that came up with it. Dave Addington, he's the one that said, I think I got an idea. So he built the first one out of a welder he scrapped, just your regular 110 welder, scrapped it, figured out how to throw some batteries in it, and all of a sudden he showed up at one of our Total Carnage meetings with a metal toolbox with a welder in it. An old school metal toolbox with the flip up lid. And I was like, what is that? We were like, this thing is amazing. Yeah. So that's kind of how the first one started.
Nice. And then it just kind of, what was the evolutionary process, I guess, of that to get it to something that you're able to bring to the market and not necessarily mass produce, but have a nice production going and scaling that up for people to purchase?
I think it was me and my wife poking him. He made one for himself. I begged him. I said, "You got to make me one." So he made me one. It eventually evolved into the plastic case that we're using now. Mm-hmm. Our club wanted one. Friends wanted one. I think we made like 20 of them before I finally said, "Dave, we need to make a company and we need to sell these things. These things would be pretty popular." So I think in 2019 is when we finally said, let's just do it. We had been using ours since 2017 when we broke on the Rubicon or whatever. So we had a couple years under our belts using them, and they seemed like they worked. Everything was fine. So 2019, we officially started Karnage Welder.
Wow.
And what did the first welder look like then?
It's pretty close to what it is now. There was no decals, no stickers, no Everything was hand cut. It was like a piece of plastic, and he was out there with a cutoff wheel, cutting it out, stuff like that. Now we have a company that CNC cuts them for us. Another company in Vegas that makes all of our decals and stuff. So they look a lot more professional, and they're all more. Every welder before, you could tell like, oh, that Dave built that one and Joe built that one, because they were completely different, right?
Yeah.
But now they're all standardized. They all look the same, and it's come a long way.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit about what comes in that case, how it's all set up. What do we got there? If somebody goes out and buys a Karnage Welder, what are they getting?
They're getting the welder itself, and it's basically in a weatherproof case. So if it's in the back of your truck and it's raining, we don't care. It's fine. Open the case, and inside is your welding torch and your ground. Your spool of wires in there mounted, the motors in there mounted, and basically the function switch, which basically once you've got your ground hooked up and you're ready to weld, just flip that thing on, and you're ready to start making sparks.
Nice. Made it ready to sizzle some bacon, as I like to call it.
So the batteries,
Yep.
did you say batteries were in there as well?
Yeah, so the batteries are in it to save time. We just wanted to be able to open the thing up, turn it on, and start fixing stuff. The whole process of getting the batteries out just seemed like, everybody's got an Optima or something like that with one of those metal cages, and you have to get the Allen wrenches to take those off. And sometimes, like on my Unimog, it's under the hood, so I have to take the hood apart to get into it, to even get the cage to get the batteries out. So it was like, for me to get a welder out and set up, it would take me 30 minutes just to set it up and another 30 minutes to put it away. Whereas we wanted to make it like, open the case, turn it on, and within 5 minutes, I'm ready to start, laying some sparks.
Yeah, that's really nice. My batteries, the way I did them under my 4Runner, they're back up, essentially tucked up above the rear axle, and they're not coming out of there until I replace them.
Right.
they're just not coming out on a trail.
Right.
So
what kind of batteries are they?
They are two 12-volt, 22 amp hour AGMs, so kind of like the size of a motorcycle battery.
Okay, and then you're wiring them in series to get the 24 volt out of them, or?
Correct. So the welder, we kind of designed it so that you could charge it on the trail. So we actually have the function switch. We'll actually put them in 24 volts to weld, or put them in 12 volts to charge. So if you're
that's
on
pretty nice.
Yeah, because again, all this kind of came about when we were thinking about it and needed it last time, was on the Rubicon Trail. And we're like, man, we're out here for 3 days. I've used the welder on day 1. What happens if I need it on day 2 or day 3 and it's dead? So we wanted to be able to charge it on the trail.
Gotcha. So you don't need a DC to DC charge controller or anything for that? Is there like a charge controller built in, or?
We do actually have a vehicle charger. It's DC to DC. So
Gotcha.
The original cable we had way back in the day was just a straight cable. But we found if the batteries were dead and you plugged it into your cigarette lighter, it would draw more than your cigarette lighter wants to give you, and you'd blow a fuse. Yep. So the charge controller just drops it down to 1 to 2 amps. So your cigarette lighter plug is happy with that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So it's all you can just plug it into a 12 volt accessory plug, cigarette plug.
Yep.
And go off that way. Nice.
Yep.
Is that an accessory, or does that come with the kit?
It's an accessory. We were including it back in the day, but we found a lot of people wanted to charge them faster, or people weren't using the welder that way. They would go out for a day run and come home, and they want to just put it in the garage and plug it in. So some people already have trickle chargers in the garage. So we thought, well, we also offer a 110 volt charger to charge it in your garage. But again, a lot of people have them already. So
Gotcha.
we didn't want to sell extra stuff in there and raise the price, so you're paying for all the stuff you're never going to use.
Yeah, that's smart. So you have the two 22 amp hour batteries in there running 24 volts. So what's your typical run time that you can do before the batteries are dead if you just pull this out and start welding with it?
Yeah, fully charged on 030 wire, you're talking 15 to 20 minutes of actual trigger time.
Wow, that's actually quite a bit of, if you think about welding time and how trigger time, that's a lot of welding. If you're doing that much welding, you got some fun things going on.
Yeah, and it varies. It depends on how fast the wire speed's turned up or turned down. If you're very close to the metal or you're further from the metal, because we don't have a temperature control, so it's just whatever the batteries have, you're getting that 100% right
Gotcha.
out of the tip. So to vary the heat, you can get a little closer. You want to get it cooler, you can get a little further away with the tip when you're welding. So, and all that changes the runtime.
Gotcha. About how long does it take to recharge it then off of, like, say, your 1 to 2 amp DC, the vehicle charger?
Typically, when you're welding, you take the batteries to probably 50%, and you're not getting a very good weld. So you're talking, I need to charge 22 amp hours. So you're talking 8 to 10 hours maybe on the vehicle charger. If you use like a 5 amp, we sell the NOCO 5 amp charger. That guy probably 4 or 5 hours to fully charge it again.
Cool. Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's half a day, 3/4 of a day of wheeling or getting to your campsite or hanging out on the trail or something. So yeah, nice. That's cool.
Then again, it's like most of the time you probably only use 5 to 10 minutes of trigger time, and it's not very far down, and then while you just drive that next hour or so till your next buddy breaks, you're probably fully charged by then again.
Yeah, we've done a lot of welds, like someone's shock bracket will break off, and you've got 2 minutes of welding out of your 20 minutes, so it's you use very little.
Right.
Until someone plays hide the boulder on you and you smash your whole front axle tube in half.
Yes, that's very true.
What is the weight of the case?
So the case with just the welder itself is about 46 pounds, and 35 of that is just the batteries inside the case.
Yeah. Yeah, even the lithium ions. You're running the lithium ions, right? We said?
AGMs.
No, just AGMs. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we tried lithium ions, and they were about 7 pounds a piece versus 14 pounds a piece, but they would not provide us 100 to 150 amps of continuous. They say on the batteries, like we were getting some Mighty Maxes or something, they provide 15 amps continuous, or they'll peak at 30, which is way short of the 100 to 150 we need.
Yeah, it's that's the downside to lithium ions, is you really got to have a beefed up BMS on them in order to run a higher amperage out of them. They don't like to run high amps. So there's been a few companies that have started making lithium irons that will run 1,000 cranking amps, so you can have it as a starting battery.
Wow.
Yeah. I've looked at a couple of those, but they're short run. They're like good for 5 seconds or something like that. We need I want 10 minutes of that 1,000 amps or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
A few years from now, it'll be there though, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be awesome. But we would take our welder from 46 pounds down to probably 35 pounds or something like that. Yeah, it would be awesome. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Nice. One of the things that I really like about your guys' setup, which is really handy, that I don't think any other wire feed trail welders can really compete with, is that your spool of wire lives in the case. It's not on the torch.
Correct. We wanted to keep it more like your garage welder. You've got a nice small torch in your hand. If you need to work on suspension components, you can just reach your arm up in there and get to those tight spots. Some of the others, they're a little more bulky, so they're a little hard to get into.
Yeah, that's one of my reasons for why I went with a Premier stick welder when I was choosing my trail welder, was because you can bend your electrodes and get into really tight spaces. And I had committed to buying everything and getting my Premier parts all ordered up, and then literally like that next week, our buddy showed up with a Carnage Welder, and I was like, oh, that is slick. That's nice.
Yeah, I've actually used a Carnage Welder. Just on our buddy Jason Hussman got one, and we brought it to my shop, and I forgot even what we were welding up, but we just did it. We were testing it and playing with it in the shop, just welding some things onto my truck, just to see how it worked and see how get an understanding of the system before we went out onto the trail to actually break and use it. So it's I like how it's smaller than the 140, Lincoln welders, and it's super compact, and it's very easy to use, which is as it's not a complex system, right? I mean, it's literally connect the ground and go, or turn on the power and go, which was really nice. And like you were saying, it's just a matter of how close you're going to move the gun away, or too close to the metal or further away from the metal to play with your heat levels. So it was,
Correct, yeah.
It's great. I mean, I loved it.
Yeah. I used one of the other welders before, and it had a green light for one polarity, red light for another polarity. We had hooked it all up, welded a vehicle, and not an hour later, the weld broke. Well, it turned out green light wasn't good. Green light means the polarity is actually backwards. So we were welding with the wrong polarity, and the weld didn't penetrate, and it broke on us. So we were like, man, we wanted to make something that was like idiot proof. I mean, I can't mess up these jumper cables, all this stuff, I've used some of the other welders where you're starting to weld on a vehicle, and I hook up the cables wrong, and I'm arcing and sparking. I'm like, what is going on here? I can't figure this out.
Nothing's happening.
Yeah, and we're I think we had the wrong polarity to the vehicle we were welding on, and it's just like we wanted to make it super, super simple. Just open the case, turn it on, and start welding.
Yeah, I will give you guys credit. You are probably one of the easiest, most user-friendly trail welding systems out there, like to use at all. Premiers are nice, but there's you got to be very cognizant of your polarity and which electrodes you're using, and know how to stick weld, and get that all. Do stick welding overhead on a frame if it's messed up or something. It can be tough. It's a nice system, but it's not super user friendly at all. And then there's the other ones where you've got to hook up all the wires and wire batteries together and pull all that out, and they're great, they're a good price point, but there's a lot to do, and yours is really the only system that's ready to go when you get it, and it's really just a matter of opening it up and flipping a switch and pulling the trigger, which is really, really nice.
Yeah. Every one's got its advantages. Like the Premier Power Welder, if you need a long run time, like more than 15-20 minutes, I mean, that thing will run until you run out of gas.
Yeah, true.
Some of the other systems, if I had a 24-volt vehicle, like, again, a Unimog is 24 volts, you can actually just plug those other welders right into the vehicle and let it run. But most people don't have a 24-volt vehicle, so that kind of makes it a little harder to use them.
Yeah, Tyler's got 2 batteries under his rig.
Yeah.
It's all 12-volt, though, still.
That's true, yeah. I saw like a $900 relay once where you could hook all your batteries to it, and if you flip the switch, it would convert you from 12 volts to 24 volts, specifically for welding, but it was a $900 relay. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's a... Wow. Okay. I was like, that's kind of cool, kind of slick, but at the same time, $900 to have that capability. That's crazy.
Right.
You could buy 2 more batteries for that.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Just wire a whole separate 24-volt system in your vehicle for that.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. That's cool. So is there anything kind of in the pipeline for Karnage and what you guys are coming out with, or?
I've had a lot of requests for can it use weld with gas, and to do that you need to be able to reverse the polarity, and since we're hardwired internally, there's no way to do that. But I've been kicking around some ideas how to possibly add that functionality. So I still have to build it, test it. It'll be a long time before it comes out if it does, but that could be an option. Sometime down the road.
Yeah, I guess that answers if it can weld with aluminum.
Yeah, so the problem with aluminum is the wire's so soft, so you almost have to have a spool gun for something like that because it's got to feed right from where it's coming out at. Even in our welder, if we could do gas and you could throw a spool of aluminum, it wouldn't feed through the whole torch. It's 6 feet long. It wouldn't feed through that, so it probably still wouldn't be able to do aluminum event, in the future.
Gotcha. So if you were going to include gas on that, would you have like a little gas bottle too, like a 24 ounce bottle of pressurized argon CO2 for that, and then just connect it into the case, or would you build it into the case somehow? That's interesting to me.
I probably wouldn't put it in the case because it's already crammed with all the cables and stuff. So it might be like a port on the inside of the case where you'd hook up an external bottle. Like a lot of guys have the power tanks and stuff that's CO2. You can actually use that as your shielding gas. So you could hook that your power tank to it, kind of thing, and that would be where you get your gas source.
Okay.
That's interesting.
I didn't realize you could do a 100% CO2 for that. Okay.
Can you, if you run out of power, can you run it off of batteries?
Yes, so we offer a set of jumper cables, basically. We call it the Karnage cables. And it's just a set of jumper cables with an Anderson connector and a jumper cable for 2 batteries. And you can grab 2 car batteries, put them in series, connect them to the port inside the welder. And if your 15, 20 minutes is up, switch over to that, and then you can continue to weld for however long those 2 batteries last.
The next 2 batteries go.
Right.
Nice.
So you kind of, there is a backup in case you do run out of batteries. It's like, okay, now we got to go to the old school method.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I need to actually change the label and label that port Plan B, because I've actually I've had people. There's been a few people who have bought the welders and bought the cables as just in case. And I seen YouTube videos where they're out there, going to fix somebody, and the first thing they did was grab all the cables and get them all hooked up. And I'm like, I'm shouting at the YouTube. I'm shouting at the YouTube video. Just turn it on. Just turn it on.
Oh man.
Can you charge through it that way as well? I mean, can you connect it up just to charge batteries?
If you had a 24-volt vehicle, possibly. But again, it's going to be wanting 24 volts to charge those 2 batteries in series.
Right.
So only in the charge mode can you charge with 12 volts, and you can't weld at that point. So,
Gotcha. Nice. I like it. So yeah, that was going to be my next question is, could you theoretically weld off of it while it's charging, but you can't?
Right. You cannot.
Because you're going from 12 to 24. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I've had a few people ask, like, well, do you make a wall plug that I can plug in and use it as a welder, long term?
In their shop or something, yeah.
Yeah, and what it would require is a 110 volt to 24 volt charger. And I just did the math the other day, and I'm like, all right, we are putting out 100 to 150 amps at 24 volts. And doing the math and converting it, you'd need a 220 socket putting out like 15 to 20 amps as a power supply to feed this thing to make that work. So
yeah,
is it possible? Yeah, but it would be like a $400 power supply to make it work, or something like that. So it's like it's kind of getting away from it's a quick, easy, portable trail welder.
Yeah, I hear you there.
If you want to weld in the garage, there's better options, that are already out there. So.
Right.
Gotcha.
And I think we alluded to it, or, if you've been paying attention to the conversation, you could figure it out. But you're running flux core. I don't know if we talked about that, but it's a flux core. Is it 030 flux core in there? Okay.
Correct. It's an 030 flux core. You can run 035, which you'll get hotter welds with it because you're thicker wire. You can pull more amps across it. But the flux core is great because out in the field, out in the desert, wind's blowing, shielding gas isn't going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and flux just tends to burn hotter, just as it's burning in. So for trail repairs and trail welders, I think flux is an awesome option because it helps ensure that you get some really good penetration on your welds and things stay together longer. So.
That's the plan.
That's the idea. Yeah, in theory.
Doesn't always work, but.
Do you have much welding experience? I mean, it seems like you built a welder. You worked with the gentleman that you guys designed this welder. I mean, are you a certified welder, or are you just a hobbyist? How does your welding experience fall?
Just totally a hobbyist. I had my Toyota back in the day, and bumpers and things like that are expensive. So, all right, let me take some tubing and some flat plate and let's make a bumper. So I kind of just grew from that.
Nice. That's cool. So you have essentially a whole shop set up that you can rely on with benders and cutters and notchers and all that good stuff to play around with?
We've got friends. Everybody has some kind of a tool. It's like, hey, I'm going to build a buggy. All right, let me go borrow this guy's bender. Let me borrow this guy's notcher. And I've got my own welder. If you needed to do some, plate work, we've got a friend with this kind of machine that can do bending and whatnot. So it's kind of nice. Our little club, everybody's got something, and so we all come together and we can do quite a different projects.
And say it's nice when you have that, because that means you guys can go out and play hide the boulder on each other all the time too. So
exactly.
Well, that's the joy of a club too, right? You're surrounding yourself around with people that have the same similar interests of you, and you guys all know each other pretty decently, and so you don't mind loaning out a a very important, expensive tool to a buddy of yours.
Exactly. And that's same as on the trail. Everybody has some sort of tools they carry. And between the 5 or 6 of us who get together and break, someone's got something they need, or they've got a part you need, and everybody, we always get everybody off the trail. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of that mentality. Jimmy and I harp on it all the time about trail welders. If somebody in your group should have a welder, if you're doing anything rock crawling where you're going to break metal, somebody in your group needs to have a welder. And then, somebody in the group, it doesn't need to be you if you have the welder, someone needs to know how to use it on the trail. And that's one of the big benefits of going out with clubs or going out with your group of buddies, that everybody's used to wheeling together. So you can kind of split those things up and figure out, who's going to carry the Karnage welder today, or who's going to carry this welder, who's going to have that, or who's going to bring the extra spindles or the extra drive shafts or whatever it is. So
the portal gears.
Yeah. Load up the Unimog with all the portal gears.
The first trip on the Rubicon, 07, we did that. Everybody was like Jeeps and whatnot. Nobody had the capacity to carry all the gear. So they're like, hey, put it on Joe's truck. They just kept loading me up.
Jimmy knows how that goes.
I know how that is. The downfalls of having a truck bed, let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So you guys going to be coming out to the Rubicon this year?
I've got a trip up there for the Reno Tahoe Mogfest coming up. I think it's in June. We'll be up there. We'll be doing a little bit of the Rubicon while we're up there. And then every year I try to get up there and just run the trail and just to get out. The weather's great. The temps are great. It's just beautiful up there.
Nice. Yeah. Hopefully we're going to see, I think, some pretty hefty fire restrictions this year here in NorCal. So I'm hoping that means they don't shut down OHV recreation to a lot of places. But the nice thing about the Rubicon is it's a county road, so they technically can't shut it down. The Forest Service can't. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But definitely, if you end up coming up here on a couple different trips, let us know, and we'd love to go out on the trail with you and hang out for a weekend.
Yeah, I'll shoot you the dates. I think Ron Tuttle. He's I think one of your subscribers.
Yes,
I heard you guys mention him. Yeah, I heard you guys mention him a couple shows back. Yeah, he lives up that way, and he'll be out at the Tahoe Mogfest. So
does the Tahoe
let you know when.
Yeah, please do. Does the Tahoe Mogfest do the Rubicon, or are you just going up for the event and then going to go do the Rubicon?
We go for the event. On the Tahoe side, we do some little trails around the area, and then we'll venture onto the Rubicon. But like Ron's Unimog is one of the heavier Unimogs, so into the stuff where you have to really articulate. It's not the best. So we'll go in a little ways, we'll go up to the big fire station up at the top of what is that hill? There's a ham tower or something up there.
I don't know.
Signal Peak?
I think that's it.
That's more over on the Fordyce side, but
it's on the Tahoe side.
Gotcha.
Somewhere, but we'll venture in a little bit. Have lunch, come out, just enjoy the scenery.
Nice. Yeah, there's a from the Tahoe side coming into the trail from Tahoma. There's how long is that? 7 miles?
Too long.
8 miles, something like that, of that forest road. But there's a lot of neat little offshoots that go up to a couple different hills and lookouts off of that road. It's a fun little place to explore and look around at.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, cool, man. Anything coming out for the future other than hoping for some longer runtime amperage lithium-ion batteries to put into everything?
That's kind of what we got going on right now. We just started. We just fulfilled an order with the Utah National Guard, so we're gonna see where that takes us. They want to put some on their trucks, I guess.
Nice.
So we'll see where that goes, and. Yeah, besides a couple little, like I said, the lithiums, I got to find the lithiums. That'd be huge if I could make that thing lighter.
Yeah, that'd be a big benefit, dropping it down, 30-40% in weight. That's a big amount. So
yeah.
Cool. I did see, was it on your guys' page? You just got an automatic wire cutter, feeder and wire cutter?
Yeah, so we're basically, when we started, it was me and Dave making these things by hand. Dave said, this is way too much work. I don't want to do this anymore. So, and then he got a job offer on the East Coast, so he's left us. So it's basically me and my wife running the thing right now. And I've got another guy, Jacob, who comes in and helps us every once in a while building cases and putting stuff together. So we were building these wiring harnesses by hand, cutting every single one, every single piece. And I seen this machine online, and I'm like, holy moly, look at this thing. It just starts spitting the wires out and to the specifications you want. I'm like, well, that just saved me hours and hours
Yeah, right.
of labor. So, I just picked that thing up to help move things along. I think we just sold our 300th welder
Wow.
in February. So
Congrats.
since 2019. So I need to pick up the production here. So this machine is going to be pretty awesome for getting
Yeah,
that
I was gonna say from a business standpoint, I'm fascinated on how people solve scalability issues. So I thought when I saw you guys get that and pick that up, I was like, oh, that's gonna save so much time, be able to allow you guys to scale up production and get more of these welders out there pretty quickly, I think. So that was neat to see.
So
it'll help with repeatability, because you're hand cutting wires and, everything's, it's a little off on this end, it's a little off on that end. This will make them exact every single time. So that'll help with consistency across the board.
So these are the internal wires, not the welding wire.
Yeah, internal wires. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So does it terminate them too? Because that'd be badass.
It strips them. It'll strip them, but it won't actually crimp the ends on. I still have to do that manually.
Gotcha.
Bummer.
But that's a shit ton of time saved from measuring, cutting, and stripping is a lot of time in building harnesses. So,
there's 21 wires in our assembly, and this machine is going to cut, I think, 18 of them of the internal ones. So that's going to save us a bunch of time.
Yeah, nice. Do you guys have a pretty big backlog on orders right now, or are you pretty up to date on orders going out?
Surprisingly, we're doing really well right now. Last year was really bad. I mean, we had people ordering in January, and I said, I have no idea when I'm going to get these parts from our manufacturers and stuff. And they're like, well, I don't care. Put me on the list. So we had orders from January, February, March, and we didn't actually deliver till May last year.
Yeah, last year was rough on the outdoor industry because people were out playing and wanted outdoor toys, and it was really hard getting stuff in from manufacturers and factories.
Everybody was off for COVID, but then everybody was not working at the manufacturers to make the parts that people wanted who were out now playing. So it was like, oh man. So we had a pretty big backlog, but we have welders on the shelf right now. It's pretty amazing.
Nice, that's cool.
But that also speaks wonders of your product, because you guys have created this niche for yourself that nobody else is doing, and people are interested in it and willing to wait a point in time, an extended point in time to get the product, your product. And I mean, that's really speaks highly of the quality and the thing that you guys created.
We were willing to refund money last year, but people were like, no, just keep me in the queue. I want this thing. So we were pretty happy with that.
That's cool. So is this your full-time job then?
No, so this is just my part-time gig. I'm an IT.
So you're doing all this and you have it. Okay.
I got a 40-hour-a-week daytime job as an IT guy. So, I fix computers during the day and I make welders at night.
Wow.
Nice. Someday I hope it's going to reverse. Like, my full-time job is to go to 4x4 shows, go to events, show people the welder, and that's all I do all day. But it's not quite there yet.
Gotcha. How does your 4x4 event look for this year, your calendar?
I know we're going to, I'm trying to get out to an event in Montrose in a couple months. We'll be at Trail Hero. We'll be at Hump and Bump.
Nice.
We were at Winter 4x4 earlier this month in January. We were at the Salt Lake City Expo a couple months ago.
Nice.
We're trying to get out to 6 or 7 things throughout the year.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be big. If people wanted to kind of check your event schedule and see if they're going to be out at the same event you are, is that up on the website, up on your social media anywhere, anything like that?
Yeah, on our Facebook page, if an event's coming up, we'll post up a couple weeks ahead of time, like, hey, come see us out there, and we'll post that out there.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I know that there's a big thing. People love running into the personalities they get to meet on podcasts and hear about and hear your story and, how you have 4 Unimogs sitting around your property. So I know people like to, if they're going to be out at an event, they'll check and see who's also going to be there that they can schedule up to say hi to. So cool. Where is it just facebook.com/Karnage Welder?
Yep, we are Karnage Welder with a K, Karnage.
Perfect.
And welder, not welders, a singular,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, single welder, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. What about the Instagram?
Again, my wife handles that. I know we're on it. I don't know what it is.
Mine does too. It's okay. So that's is that the same Karnage Welder at Instagram?
Yeah, it should be spelled the same. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And then do you guys have email, customer service? If people wanted to get a hold of you to ask questions about the system, figure out if it can do X, Y, or Z, or if it's right for them, how can they get a hold of you guys to do that?
Sure, they can just email us at info@karnagewelder.com.
Perfect. Easy peasy. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Jimmy, did you have any other things off the top of your mind that you were just dying to know from Joe here?
I just want axles.
He just wants some 404 axles. That's all.
How did you?
Lots.
Yeah, you have lots. Wow.
I think we're making a trip out to Vegas here
How
soon.
did you get around the third member issue? Because those third members, don't they have like a solid drive shaft coming off of them?
So yeah, it's a torque tube with the drive shaft inside the tube. So on my buggy, it is still 100% the original Unimog drivetrain. So I've still got the original torque tubes and everything all on the chassis.
Okay. So if somebody wants to go from like their 22 RE with a bunch of T cases behind it to a Unimog axle, how do they go? How do they do that?
That would be impressive with the doubler and then the 756 gears and the 404 portal axle. That'd be pretty insane. So they do make a pinion adapter that goes on the front of the snout of the third member. The third member is very long, so it's hard for some people to get it to fit. You end up with a 6-inch drive shaft in some cases, but it can be done.
So that's what you just need to add more cases in front of it. So you've got more 2.28 reductions.
Yeah.
So you go
it's more torque.
Six of those and the 756 in the axles. You're like 3,000 to 1.
What is it? 756? Is that both the ring and pinion and the gear reduction in the portals, or is that just the portals? Okay,
that's combined. Yeah, because the portal's like 2 to 1 ish, and then the pumpkin's 3 point something or other. Yeah.
Dang.
Let's say that would take your 250 to 1 up to 550 to 1.
I love
in
it.
Bobcat.
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
It's just like adding another 4.7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from the factory, the Unimog has a crawler box that puts you at 350 to 1, just right out of the box.
Wow.
I feel like we need to get a Unimog now. You need a
Unimog Morphlate.
Morphlate Unimog.
What is your wheelbase?
It's 114. That's the stock with the torque tubes and everything.
Yeah, see?
That's a little close to a 4-door JK. You get in all the 4-door JK holes.
Yeah.
Sounds like a body swap in the future.
You're right.
Yeah. I like the idea. Mm-hmm. You're Joe, I don't like you anymore. You're making my mind run in so many directions, and I need to get a Karnage Welder. So, which that one isn't a bad thing. It's the Unimog axles that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Figure out how to make those work under Bobcat.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you so much for coming on.
Man.
Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for teaching us about Unimogs. That definitely was an unforeseen benefit of this episode.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah, they are pretty neat. Yeah. And thanks for informing our listeners out there about the cool products you make at Karnage Welder.
Cool. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, man. And do you have any final words for everybody out there, Joe?
Just don't wheel alone, and hey, bring a welder with you.
I like it. Jimmy, any final words for everyone?
Sounds like people need to join, Total Carnage Club down in Vegas. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah, if body damage doesn't hurt your feelings, it's a fun group to come hang out with.
Oh man, we're gonna have to make a trip out there, I feel like. So cool. And with that, everybody out there, keep growling.
I got one for you.
Joke time.
Why are fish and music the same?
I have no idea.
They both have scales.
Oh, okay.
No?
No. Oh, welcome one. Oh, welcome all to the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast. If you like going in off-roading in Toyotas and getting tongue-tied in Toyotas and, oh, that's something different, huh? Let's start over.